your old pal said, son, you've got a friend in me. Yeah, you've got a friend in me. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Upon the mountain, my God spoke. Out of his mouth came fire and smoke. Looked all around me, looked so fine. I asked my God if all were mine. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. The river Jordan runs right cold. It chills the body, not the soul. There ain't but one train on this track. It runs to heaven and right back. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Moving in my heart, I will pray. Moving in my heart, I will pray.
We are now called together, called by bell and bird, called by daylight and breeze, called by the beat of our hearts to join again the living tradition we share, to answer again the call of mystery and wonder. Today, with the World Peace Bell ringing from Newport, Kentucky, and loons calling in the Adirondacks, let us remember the first of our tradition's sources, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life.
Good morning. Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Congregation at White Plains, New York, formerly of the Lenape Nation. I'm Reverend Meredith Garman, minister of our congregation and your worship associate this morning. We are delighted to have Reverend Kimberley Debus, who was our CUUC sabbatical minister in 2019-20, here as our guest preacher offering the sermon today. Welcome to this home of liberal religion, which affirms four truths. It's a blessing you were born. It matters what you do. Your experience of the divine is true, and you don't have to go it alone. Today is the 9th Sunday of summer. At White Plains latitude, daylight is dwindling now at the rate of 2.5 minutes a day. The moon was full last night. It's the sturgeon moon because the lake sturgeon of the Great Lakes and Lake Champlain, North America's largest fish, were most readily caught during this part of summer. We extend a special welcome to our visitors. If you are a first-time visitor, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. You will find a link in the order of service on our website at cucwp.org. There you will also find other resources to help keep us connected during this time and a donate button. For July and August, our Share the Plate funds go to Furniture Share House, which collects new and gently used furniture to distribute free of charge to Westchester families in need. We're able to take contributions via the donate button for your pledge, for the plate share, and for the minister's discretionary fund. And now, Board Chair Joe Majak has some news and then will lead us in lighting our chalices.
Hi, I'm Joe Majak. As the chair of the board for this congregation, I welcome you. This morning, I'd like to pause and hold in our hearts hope for all the men, women, and children in Afghanistan who are facing incredible harm and threats to their safety. May our thoughts and prayers help nurture their successful journey to safety and freedom. And now it's time to light the chalice. I am only one, but still, I am one. I cannot do everything, but still, I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do.
Our affirmation is the mission of Community Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and it's the covenant of this congregation. I ask now all the members and any visitors who would like to affirm it along with me. We covenant to nurture each other in our spiritual journeys, foster compassion and understanding within and beyond our community, and engage in service to transform ourselves and our world.
Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your heart, for love is strong as death.
The people of Haiti suffered the assassination of their president on July 7, with ensuing political turmoil. The latest COVID surge has taken a severe toll in Haiti, where few are vaccinated. And then last week, on Saturday, August 14th, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake hit Haiti, leaving more than 2,100 people dead and thousands more injured. They need help. Our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee is responding. If you can donate to UUSC, please go to uusc.org to do so. I want to share with you this 2-minute, 50-second video from UUSC President, Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn.
Thank you, friends, for this opportunity to share a word about UUSC's disaster justice work and our response to the recent earthquake in Haiti. I'm Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, and I'm president of UUSC. For 8 decades, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee has sought to respond when crisis strikes, always with an eye towards supporting communities that are overlooked and not engaged with by large humanitarian organizations. This work has led us to the larger disaster justice movement, building resilience and capacity, advocating for justice and human rights in relief and recovery, understanding that intersectional systems of oppression cause disproportionate harm to communities of color and other communities impacted by these systems. We are grateful for the trust you have placed in us again and again to reach out on your behalf in times of crisis so that relief and recovery happen within a human rights framework and with a long view of sustainability and restoration. I know that many of you are aware of and were touched by UUSC's work in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake. Many of you supported the development of the eco-villages with your financial gifts. Thank you. As soon as we received word of the latest catastrophic earthquake, on the heels of assassination and political turmoil, and in the midst of a terrible COVID outbreak, we reached out to allies and former partners to understand the impacts and how we might respond. We are determining our first steps now, driven by our commitment to support grassroots-led recovery. Already, we have seen an incredible response to our appeal for financial support. Thank you if you have already made a gift. If not, we hope you will consider joining with us in this effort by making a donation to our Emergency Response Fund, either as a part of a congregational collection or through our website, www.uusc.org. Thank you so much for your support.
In prayer, we take a moment to solemnly remind ourselves of our purposes and our gratitude, that they may guide and affirm our actions and our being. Will you pray with me? Dear earth and waters, air and sky, thank you for this abounding world, for starshine and moon, sunrise and set, for trees, for air and lungs to breathe it. Thank you for the manifest blessing, the manifold sustenance you provide our bodies, and the myriad beauty you provide our spirits. Partners celebrate weddings and anniversaries. In parts of the world, students and teachers are beginning a new year. There are new and exciting job opportunities, adventures, homes, and relationships. Faith, hope, and love are all around us. Our hearts are lifted by the glory of creation and the joys of relationships, even as our hearts are also weighted with trauma and tragedy. We have heard about the terrible hardships that have struck Haiti. These have been compounded by heavy rains from Tropical Storm Grace that have hampered the search for earthquake survivors. The UN says that 500,000 children in Haiti have limited or no access to shelter, safe water, health care, and nutrition. Make us agents of healing. Wildfires in Israel, now under control, burned more than 4,200 acres. Wildfires in France consumed over 14,000 acres. Wildfires rage in Algeria, in Siberia, in Paraguay, as well as in California and the American West. Huge blazes around the globe produce carbon dioxide emissions from wildfires this year that are the highest in the 2 decades of satellite records. And there's fatal flooding in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Close to home, we face the arrival of Storm Henri with some trepidation. Our planet moans. Make of us agents of healing. In Afghanistan, refugees flee the country after Taliban militants have taken power, and many more desperate Afghanis are attempting to get out or giving up in despair. Help us to the wisdom to know what to do and the courage to do it. Make of us agents of healing. And so Amen. And for all that has been said, and for all that we carry in our hearts, we will have a silent meditation, and then a musical meditation, and then sing along with the sung response.
Calling on you, hungry hearts, everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart of mine. Calling on you, hungry spirits, all the lost and the left behind. All I can, I'll share with you, your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine.
Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Spirit of life, a phrase so common in Unitarian Universalism, it almost sounds like one word, spirit of life. We say it as easily and without thought as though this is the name we decided to give to the divine, to mystery, to God. We talk about spirit and sing about spirit, well, all the time, really. This is our word, our shorthand for acknowledging that which is beyond us, even if we're not entirely sure there is anything beyond us. Spirit is comfortable and comforting because it is so deeply in us, because it is us. Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams suggested that our faith is dependent on the spirit behind creation and in all of our prophetic witness. It is that something that connects us, that compels us to the work of justice and compassion, that holds us in times of celebration and times of sorrow, and certainly in these times of pandemic and revolution. We may never really know what it is, but as Unitarian Universalists, spirit of life helps us to name that something, that great mystery. We call it the spirit of life. Those who were here during Reverend Meredith's sabbatical know that I almost always begin my prayers with spirit of life, even if I follow it up with names like mystery, infinite, creator, parent, God. We start with spirit of life. And I blame Carolyn McDade, in all the best ways, of course, as her song, Spirit of Life, has become a cornerstone in Unitarian Universalism. This song is incredibly meaningful to many of us. It is indeed an incredibly meaningful song. Many consider it to be the Unitarian Universalist hymn, touching so much that is central to our faith: compassion, justice, community, freedom, reverence for nature, and the mystery of life. It is perhaps the best well-known of what we might call our insider songs, and it is used throughout the denomination as an invocation, a sung response, a hymn of meditation, a final song of blessing, even a song of welcome to membership. For a few years in my home congregation in Saratoga Springs, if someone signed the book outside of a membership Sunday ritual, those who were near would gather to speed sing this to the new member. And there are a handful of members who became members while I was doing your sabbatical ministry. And I watched them sign the book with joy, and I sped song, Spirit of life, come unto me. And it was a delightful moment. But it is hard to remember a time when this song wasn't so deeply ingrained into the fabric of our Unitarian Universalist lives. Yet, it wasn't always so beloved. While some congregations were singing this song from photocopies of a passed along handwritten sheet, others had never encountered it. The Reverend Tom Belote talks about growing up in one of the Boston area churches and hearing Spirit of Life for the first time when it appeared in the Gray hymnal Singing the Living Tradition and was released in 1993. The song, so simple, only one verse in a folk modality, seemed almost useless and foreign. How is this a hymn? People cried out. They hated it. They hated the shortness of it, the sound of it, the language in it. And that congregation wasn't the only one. It took quite a while for Spirit of Life to catch on everywhere in the denomination. And we forget this bit of our history, that Spirit of Life hasn't always been the mainstay it is now. And even though other songs like Blue Boat Home are vying for position, Spirit of Life remains. For many, it speaks our truth, and it is meaningful. But I worry sometimes that we misuse it or misunderstand it or use it as a shibboleth or a sign of our faith. Some Unitarian Universalists use it as a declaration of our theology, which it isn't, even though it is deeply aligned with the theologies we each espouse. And of course, it is aligned with the principles we affirm and promote. It sometimes gets used like a creed, which is a really hard sell in our non-creedal faith. We don't espouse or demand belief in any particular doctrine, and that's the freedom of our liberal religion. And anyway, Spirit of Life as a statement of belief doesn't even work really, as there's nothing in there that even hints to an I believe statement, no less our much more open and somewhat challenging affirm or promote that begins our principles and sources. But worse, I worry that some of us use this song as a show to others of our righteousness. Some of you may know of the Christian song that goes, "They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love." And I think sometimes Unitarian Universalists use Spirit of Life the same way. Look at how good we are. Look at how woke we are. But Spirit of Life is not a brag. And it's not a statement of theology. It is a prayer. It is a prayer. An individual, one person, exhausted, crying out for help, comfort, a renewal of the fire of commitment. It is a prayer that comes out of a place of humility. In a 2007 interview in UU World, McDade reflected with contributing editor Kimberley French on the events that inspired the song after a meeting for Central American solidarity. She told French, "When I got to my friend Pat's house, I told her I feel like a piece of dried cardboard that has lain in the attic for years. Just open wide the door and I'll be dust. I was tired, not with my community, but with the world. She just sat with me and I loved her for sitting with me." McDade then drove to her own home. "I walked through my house in the dark and found my piano, and that was my prayer. May I not drop out. It was not written, but prayed. I knew more than anything I wanted to continue in faith with the movement." And thus the prayer was written. A request for support, for rest, for renewal, for perspective, a plea for the spirit of life to come, a knowing that we can't do it all by ourselves. It is a humble song. And not just because it's a simple tune with one verse. It takes humility to sing to Spirit, to ask Spirit to bring those things that should be cornerstones of how we are in the world. And this matters, always, of course, in our work of justice, but especially now when a revolution is spawning. You see, revolution isn't just about battle lines. It's about changing hearts and minds. It's about a shift in understanding, approach, as well as organizing and resourcing. Now, you can say that the civil rights movement was a revolution, and in some ways it did revolutionize some of how we are as Americans around race. Yet it also caused a doubling down and the institutionalization of racism undercover in our economic systems, in our infrastructure, in our schools, in our emergency services and neighborhoods, and yes, in policing. Jim Crow was illegal, but the ideas remain. They remain through the murders of Black people on our streets by police and others who imagined they were doing the righteous thing. They remain through the subtle ways voting rights have been taken away. They remain through a shocking school-to-prison system for people of color. They remain through the denial of medical care through exorbitant fees and facility closures. They remain through the costs of being poor. They remain through the everyday microaggressions and racist acts that add to generations-old trauma. They remain through the simple act of a popular athlete taking a knee and being blackballed. They remain as the Delta variant. They remain as blame for the Delta variant isn't on those who refuse masks and vaccinations, but on those who are poor, immigrant, not white. And right now, we are beginning to see not just uprisings to address a particular moment, although often one moment creates a spark, but we are beginning to see actual revolution. Apologies, removal of statues, banning of Confederate flags, talk of defunding the police, and the abolition of modern slavery. A shift in the understanding that the very systems we have relied on for so long have been harming others, denying their humanity, their inherent worth, denying justice. This work, this hard work of revolution, this is the work that our siblings of color have been doing for far too long. This is the work that has gone on too long, ignored by white people or co-opted in bite-sized pieces, enough to satisfy us and make us feel good without challenging us. Now, I speak to you as a white person who has been resolved in our anti-racism, but hasn't always been humble. And the work of revolution demands humility, demands that we acknowledge all that we do not know because of our own experiences of race, our own experiences of the world, our own reliance on systems that do protect us, that our work is ours to do. Spirit of life, come unto me. And this work is hard. This shifting, major major paradigm shift in the midst of a pandemic seems nigh impossible. We need all the help we can get, and we are struggling. As Reverend Nadia Bowles-Weber writes, our psyches were not developed to hold, feel, and respond to everything coming at them right now. Every tragedy, injustice, sorrow, and natural disaster happening to every human across the entire planet in real time, every minute of every day. The human heart and spirit was developed to be able to hold, feel, and respond to any tragedy, injustice, sorrow, or natural disaster that was happening just in our village. And yet, we are holding the world as best we can in the midst of this pandemic when our souls and our spirits are so tired. But we can hold what we can and approach the work as best we are able. And it matters that we enter the work with resolve and, especially for those of us who are white, a sense of humility. Whether we can be marching in the streets or contributing to organizations that help with rescue missions and bail money and supporting organizers, or just learning more about how to undo racism and oppression, we can do better with the stirrings of compassion and justice that the Spirit of Life brings us. We cannot sing this song and believe we are done. We cannot sing this prayer and not be called to action. As Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd said at General Assembly in 2016, the world does not need another place where like-minded liberals hang out and fight about who's in charge. We need to lean into the real fights of our age. And we cannot do that holy work together unless we are really willing to set aside our own need to win and reach out our hands and seek the deeper understanding that comes with difference. And to do this work, especially in this time, we need all the help we can get. We sing this song to ask for the things we each need most from Spirit: strength, renewal, energy, focus, a reminder that it's worth the fight, a reminder of the gifts we bring, help for the ministries we already do, through providing support for those in need, caring for one another, doing the good, hard work of maintaining community through a pandemic, doing the healing work of supporting our broken hearts, helping us to speak out, allowing us to speak truth. More than ever, we need the Spirit of Life. We need our spirits to catch fire, to rise up in us, to cause us to rise up what this moment in history is calling us to. And we won't all rise in exactly the same way and that's okay, because the revolution needs all of us, all of our gifts. But we must rise. We must draw the circle wide. We must be the people we've been waiting for. And so we pray, Spirit of Life, come to us. Come to us.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the air, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, whose wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Be well. Now, Please join Joe Majak for our Chalice Extinguishing words as you extinguish your chalice at home.
Please say with me these words as we extinguish our chalice. As we extinguish our chalice, may it glow in our hearts, renewing our spirits, joining us to the forces of life, and awakening us to transcendent wonder.
Our words of benediction come from Chip Rausch. Deeper than DNA, more fundamental than molecules or quarks, at our living core, we are wholeness and transfiguring love. We often forget that power, becoming lonely or resentful, comparing ourselves to others, acting out of fears rather than our living in glory. Occasionally, we rouse from our trance to remember our wholeness. For a time, we embody unsentimental love. We make efforts to wake others and to remain fully present ourselves. May our lives be made sacred by our striving. May we be more aware of the spirit of life evolving through and among us. So may we be. Go in love. Go in joy. Go in peace.
If you got troubles, then I've got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. If we stick together, we can see it through. 'Cause you've got a friend in me. Yeah, you've got a friend in me. Now somebody knows like me a little smarter than I am. But none of them will ever love you the way I do. Just me and you, boy. And as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend.